With distance, people are almost incredulous that it ever happened. It seems such a remarkably bizarre event.
Welcome to Watch Mojo. Today we're looking at some horrifying mistakes which surprisingly improve things in the long run.
We had to figure out how to perform maneuver without a computer display system, and this was one procedure that they developed, I believe, for Apollo 8.
The Hindenburg Disaster.
34 seconds after the first flame appears, the Hindenburg is consumed by the inferno.
Flying a plane is safer than driving a car, but in an alternate reality, it might be the opposite. This would be the reality without the Hindenburg Disaster, where most planes could instead be strapped full of huge balloons loaded with explosive gas. A century ago, these rigid airships were in their prime, especially within Germany.
The LZ-129 Hindenburg, the largest flying machine ever built, emerges from its hangar. Its destination, Lakehurst, New Jersey.
The first flight happened in 1900, but in 1937, the Hindenburg Disaster revealed just how dangerous they were. It was the largest airship in the world, bursting into flames in the skies of New Jersey. Next time you're scared of flying, just be thankful there's not a balloon full of hydrogen gas strapped to the airplane's roof.
What scientists now believe happened is that a tear in a gas bag, a hydrogen leak, an electrostatic charge, and a rare spark between the outer skin and the inner frame all added up to a once-in-a-lifetime chain reaction.
San Francisco earthquake.
Towards evening, a young newspaper reporter named Jack London surveyed the scene. "I knew it was all doomed," he wrote.
California is right on the boundary between two tectonic plates, hence making it a region where earthquakes are common. Nowadays, we have an extensive knowledge of the phenomena, and most Californian cities are designed with them in mind. We acquired these things through immense suffering, primarily because in 1906, roughly 80% of San Francisco was destroyed. Words can only scratch the surface of how horrifying such a disaster would have been. The city was almost completely wiped out. But as we all know, San Francisco stands tall today. If the disaster hadn't happened, then we might have had to learn our lesson even later down the line, potentially losing even more lives.
Here was manifest an indomitable and impetuous spirit that, in the wake of disaster, had built an entire city and a World's Fair from the ground up.
Apollo 13 disaster.
I don't care what anything was designed to do. I care about what it can do. So let's get to work. Let's lay it out.
In April 1970, this lunar expedition simultaneously became one of NASA's biggest disasters and greatest triumphs. On its way to the moon, Apollo 13 had a catastrophic oxygen tank explosion. They had to cancel the landing, instead slingshotting the astronauts around the moon and then landing them back on Earth.
Our mission was called a successful failure, in that we returned safely but never made it to the moon.
It was one of many heroic moments in NASA's history, with their amazing response being dramatized multiple times. It not only influenced later design of ships, but also emphasized how important adaptability is in space travel. Additionally, it inspired countless individuals to pursue a career in space exploration, with the ordeal captivating the entire globe.
Kind of miraculously, since we had abused the vehicle, the mothership, by freezing it for 4 days. The water tanks were frozen when they recovered it on board the ship.
The Ford Pinto Scandal.
Pinto, the little carefree car. It's a little better in a lot of ways.
Back in the 70s, one of Ford's main cars was the Pinto, with over 3 million being produced prior to 1980. Unfortunately, it was remarkably dangerous, being prone to explode in rear-end collisions. Ford was reluctant to recall the faulty vehicles, seeming to care little about fixing their mistake. On the bright side, the scandal prompted major changes in law, specifically in holding manufacturers responsible. In the end, Ford suffered serious financial repercussions for their negligence, thus telling the world that profits shouldn't come before safety. So even though many people once drove these four-wheeled bombs, be thankful it rarely happens today.
Pinto's hard to hit, easy to fix.
The Great Fire of London.
The fire spreading quite quickly, as are the rumours that it was started by Dutch spies.
Spies is the Dutch spies, I'm telling you.
If you visit Britain's capital city, you'll find very few to no wooden buildings. The opposite would be true if you were a tourist before 1666, when the houses were packed tight with thatched roofs all around. It took just one baker to set the whole city ablaze. But on the bright side, there were far fewer deaths than you'd expect.
It's now the end of the third day, and all over London the fire isn't showing any signs of slowing down.
The city burned bright for 4 days, destroying most of central London. As a result, the city was rebuilt out of much less flammable stone, also causing major improvements in firefighting. Contrary to popular belief, it didn't stop the plague, but that doesn't discount the other long-term benefits.
Most Londoners knew that the safest thing to do would be to flee the city. But the narrow, winding streets made a mass exodus at speed almost impossible.
Titanic's sinking.
If we stay too close, we'll be caught by the suction when she goes down.
You roll with me. One of the ladies can steer.
I'm in charge of this boat. Your job's to row.
When the world's largest ocean liner sank, it had barely enough lifeboats to carry everyone aboard. Other mistakes included sailing at full speed, despite ice warnings, and barely testing the ship before sailing. Approximately 1,500 people lost their lives in the incident, many instantly dying from the cold sea.
By the time most of the lifeboats were in the water, those left on board now knew for certain where the Titanic was taking them, and it wasn't to the New World.
While it would have been terrifying to live through, without it, we wouldn't have made so many improvements in maritime safety. It prompted ship designers to include more lifeboats, alongside testing their ships more thoroughly. Soon after, the International Ice Patrol was founded, an iceberg monitoring organization, making sailing much, much safer.
Got ahead!
Challenger Space Shuttle Disaster.
Looks like a couple of the solid rocket boosters blew away from the side of the shuttle in an explosion.
In 1986, NASA launched the Challenger Space Shuttle, which was a catastrophic failure. The entire crew died within minutes of launching, all because of a design flaw that they were well aware of. Engineers thought cold conditions would cause the shuttle to explode, which it did almost instantly. The people in charge decided to ignore the warnings, because they had delayed the flight multiple times and thus were worried about bad press.
I heard them say major malfunction, and then the person beside me said it's exploded, and it was... I couldn't speak.
Learning from this, NASA hasn't had a disaster of such monumental proportions since. It knocked some sense into the people in charge, finally convincing them to listen to their engineers, thus improving spaceflight safety forever.
Many of them probably had their view blocked just as we did with the television cameras, with just a huge fireball and a huge cloud of smoke. They may not realize yet what has happened.
The Great Molasses Flood.
You had people now caught in molasses. They couldn't move, and gradually they were submerged and drowned.
Molasses is known for being a thick, slow, sticky substance, not a liquid capable of a tsunami, like water. Well, in 1919, a molasses tsunami devastated Boston. Approximately 2.3 million gallons of molasses ruptured its storage tank, creating a wave that killed 21 people. The tank's creators were beyond negligent, not testing it for leakage, plus using substandard steel. When the leaking was noticed, they decided to paint it brown and hide it. Thankfully, it taught us a whole lot of safety lessons, thus preventing a repeat performance of such a horrifying disaster.
The story probably went all over North America at the time, and every city across the country probably started to look at the drawings that came into them more carefully.
Bopal Gas Disaster.
The Bhopal gas leak of 1984 is considered one of the world's worst industrial disasters. It's even harmed babies developing in the womb.
In 1984, the world experienced its worst ever industrial disaster. In Bhopal, India, more than 500,000 people were exposed to an extremely toxic gas. Thousands perished as a result, with hundreds of thousands being injured. It was caused by a factory leak, which had extremely poor safety standards.
It was leaking, but thing is, that was leaking slowly.
Minor gas leaks are a regular occurrence, and the workers have had to learn to live with the choking effects.
In its wake, worldwide health and safety standards experienced immense reform. This included a greater focus on disaster prevention alongside better emergency responses. While it would have been a living hell to experience, at least it's not been repeated. We can also be hopeful that it will forever remain humanity's worst industrial disaster.
We don't want to scare Bastiwalas. As long as we are learning from our mistakes, we are safe.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into Settings and switch on your notifications.
Penicillin.
I certainly didn't plan to revolutionize all medicine, Fleming later said, but I guess that's exactly what I did.
Taking our top spot, it's a mistake that was only terrible for being an experimental blunder. Scottish physician Alexander Fleming was experimenting on bacteria and decided to go on holiday, leaving some plates behind to inoculate. He accidentally left a plate open, causing it to go moldy.
Professor, come and see. It's extraordinary. Penicillin lies right as rain.
This turned out to be potentially history's most successful academic mistake, as the mold had killed all the bacteria. Thus, the first ever antibiotic was discovered, with penicillin becoming humanity's first ever wonder drug. Now you're unlikely to die from a small scratch getting infected, which we can all thank penicillin for.
Tell us how you discovered penicillin, Professor Fleming.
Well, it was an accident, really. I left a culture plate of Staphylococcus in my lab over the summer break, and well, I was about to throw it out when I noticed that mold had grown on the culture plate.
Were there any other horrendous mistakes we missed which made things better in the future? Leave them in the comments.
All the more reason for today's medical researchers to watch out for peculiar developments in their petri dishes.